Welcome back to CBS Mornings, where we have got a story for you. Earlier this month, 35-year-old Sheldon Thomas walked out of a Brooklyn, New York courtroom free after almost 2 decades behind bars. Thomas was arrested back in 2004 for murder after an eyewitness pointed to a picture of a guy named Sheldon Thomas in a police lineup of photos. But the man in the image was actually a different person entirely, happened to have the same name. And as we step through the circles of absurdity here, that guy also had no link to the case. Nevertheless, prosecutors continued to focus on the Sheldon Thomas they had in custody, which eventually led to his wrongful conviction. Thomas talked to our Lilia Luciano just days after his release in his very first TV interview.
I waited for this my whole life.
Sheldon Thomas was 16 when police took down the door of his home and locked him up. Now, 19 years later, he's been effectively exonerated.
What's been hard about just being out and about? It's been so little time.
Just like what you said, being out and about, adjusting, being around people.
Thomas was convicted for second-degree murder in the December 2004 death of a 14-year-old boy in Brooklyn. Attorneys William Kasten and Leslie Ressinger have worked with Thomas for more than a decade. They say the case should have never even made it to trial.
How much of his case was based on lies?
100%. From the police interaction to him, every party failed him in the system.
In a pretrial hearing, a detective lied, then admitted to lying on the stand, and the case still moved forward.
He is arrested based on a photo that is not his.
The people involved in decision-making refused to accept the fact that a mistake was made. How can a jury reach a fair verdict? It was rigged from the start.
The unit that reviewed his case after years of failed appeals concluded that Thomas was denied due process at every stage and found one of the detectives involved had been harassing Thomas after a prior arrest and lied about knowing him.
Did you ever feel like they were targeting you specifically?
Most definitely.
It should have been the other way around. You're innocent until proven guilty.
From my lenses, where I see life, it's always like that for people like me. For people that look like me, it's always like that. You're guilty until you actually prove that you're innocent.
Nearly 2 decades later, he finally stepped into what still feels like a mirage of freedom.
I haven't even cried yet since I've been home. Like, I haven't even got to the point where it actually hit me. I still have dreams about being in prison. I'm scared to go to sleep. As the days go by, it dawns on me a little bit more, a little bit more.
Mr. Thomas' motion to vacate extension of conviction is granted.
At a hearing this month, Thomas shared how his hope was sustained for so long by releasing resentment.
When I was sentenced, Del Judas said that I deserved to spend the rest of my life in prison. He was wrong. I didn't deserve what happened, and I forgive him. I know I've lost 20 years already, but ultimately I prevailed. I don't like losing, so I have to let go, because I don't want that to be what defines me as a human, as a person. I want love to define me.
Sheldon says he can't sleep because he's afraid that he's going to wake up and it was all a dream. He can't sleep because of the other inmates he met up in Attica who he believes are there innocent. We reached out to the detective that we mentioned in this case who was involved in the original arrest, and he said he did not want to comment. Here's one thing that the attorney told me. When you commit a crime and you serve your sentence, when you walk out, there is resources, there is assistance. For him, they just open the door and you're on your own. So
he gets no assistance whatsoever.
Nothing right now. He's relying on his elderly mother who's working a second shift to support him, and on crowdfunding that his attorney set up. And eventually, perhaps he may sue and maybe he'll win, but he's not ready for that. Right now, he's just focusing
And what's
on
it like for him to be around people?
Well, that's what he was saying. He
Around
said,
people.
we were walking around Central Park, and he said, when you're in prison, the only time you get outside, you're in the yard. And if somebody gets close to you,
It's normally not a good thing.
It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
You're going to get
Yeah.
attacked. So he feels like that self-preservation means isolation. And even with his family, he says, I feel so bad because they reach out to me, and I just need the solitude.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope Lily, he will allow himself a good cry. He certainly deserves and needs that. But I marvel that he can sit here today after the injustice that happened to him and say, I forgive them.
You know what?
I would still need help on that. I mean,
Yeah.
and I want love to define it.
Yeah, he's going to need a lot of therapy, and we talked so much. I wish I could share everything, but he did. I asked him what got you through it, and he said Viktor Frankl's book, A Man's
Search for Meaning. One of the greatest books
he
ever
read
written.
it over and over, and
Wow.
he read about this man in a concentration camp, and he said, well, at
Yes.
least that's not this, and if he can get through it, and all those
Wow.
lessons got him
Book's
through.
incredible, powerful.
It is.
He's an amazing human being.
Yeah,
Incredible grace
Sheldon.
and pressure. Lilia, thank
most inspired person I've met in my life.
you. Wow.
I get that.
Saying a lot because you've met a lot of people.
Yes.
Lilia, thank you very much.
Thank you.